Manx Radio's Update with Dave Moore.
The time is 5 o'clock. You're listening to Manx Radio. I am Dave Moore, and this is Update. Welcome to the programme. Half an hour of the latest news in the Isle of Man, plus sport, business, travel updates, along with the newsmakers in person. Coming up, could there be a public petition on a proposed wind farm in the south of the island? The Treasury Minister is looking for a review of the off-island patient transfer system. Plus, we'll have the very latest news on the Manx Rally. That's all coming up in the next 30 minutes. But first of all, the Update news headlines with Siobhan Fletcher. Faster Mai.
Campaigners are calling for a public vote on a proposed wind farm in the south of the island. They say the development would harm views, wildlife and leave behind unrecyclable materials. It's hoped a new system for categorising indecent images of children will drastically reduce police officers' exposure to such material, as well as speeding up prosecutions. Detective Superintendent Steve Maddox says the change will have a big impact on the officers involved.
The deplorable and horrible things to have to look at. So the exposure that they're having to view those kind of things is drastically reduced now we've got this system in place.
Portarin Commissioners has issued a warning after several incidents of littering, damage and graffiti have occurred on the beach this week. It's asking people to respect the public areas and leave them as you would like to find them. It's understood the Heysham berth, damaged in an incident involving Manxmen last August, is now back in service. Passengers have told Manx Radio the steam packet flagship has been using this number 1 berth this week. Further afield, for the first time since 2021, MPs are being recalled from their Easter break to vote on emergency legislation concerning the future of British Steel's Scunthorpe plant. It's understood they'll debate a single 1 or 2 line bill aimed at protecting jobs. Officials investigating a helicopter crash in New York, which killed a pilot and a family of 5, say it broke apart mid-air before plunging upside down into the Hudson River near Manhattan. Sally Gethin is an aviation industry analyst and thinks there needs to be more restrictions on helicopter traffic in big cities.
I mean, what's really concerning about this is that it could have been so much worse. It's bad enough as it is, but, you're talking about a metropolitan area that is highly densely populated. And the same thing, obviously, with the Washington, D.C. one.
And Mo Salah has put pen to paper on a new 2-year contract at Liverpool. The Egypt international forwards deal was due to expire in the summer. They're your headlines. I'll be back with your news at 6.
Thank you, Siobhan. Let's look at the weather. Remaining dry, clear skies this evening and overnight. Light, mainly southerly winds, minimum temperatures of around 6 Celsius. So what about tomorrow? Well, dry and bright for much of the morning before turning cloudy as outbreaks of rain arrive in the afternoon and through the evening. This rain, though, will clear away early in the night. Light to moderate southerly winds, top temperatures of 13 Celsius. And looking at Sunday, largely dry, sunny spells, only the small risk of an isolated shower, moderate to fresh west or northwest winds, becoming southwest in the afternoon and increasing fresh to strong in the evening, and top temperatures on Sunday 11 Celsius.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshore Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode Estate, view philshorevehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Bell-Dorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company, Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
SMS Trading have moved to 3 St Paul's Square, Ramsey. For flat pack to fully built, new or second-hand furniture, SMS Trading offer all-island delivery and man-in-a-van service. Call 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
At Begode Cattery, we have been caring for animals for over 50 years. As a cattery, we care for customers' cats and treat them as our own. Contact Begode Cattery on 676 947 or find Begode Cattery on Facebook.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And we begin with a petition calling for a referendum on a proposed wind farm in the south of the island is gaining traction. Campaigners say the development would damage views and wildlife and leave a long-term environmental footprint. Now, Christian Jones has been looking into it and he joins me now. So, Christian, what are the campaigners actually asking for?
Well, this petition was started by someone called John Anslow, who describes the island as pristine. He's warning that the proposed wind farm would be visible across much of the southern landscape. And now those supporting the petition are effectively concerned about the impact on the island's natural scenery, the wildlife and the long-term sustainability. Quite crucially, though, they're also calling for a public vote to decide whether the project should actually go ahead.
OK, well, we'll come to that referendum in just a moment if we can. First of all, what are the environmental concerns that are being raised?
Well, there's a few. One of the main points is wildlife, and the petition cites a figure from the British Trust for Ornithology suggesting that up to 300,000 birds are killed by wind turbines each year across the UK. There's also mention of turbine blades ending up in landfill, though there is evidence to suggest that researchers are exploring new ways to recycle those materials. And the petition actually highlights a gradual decline in turbine performance. One paper that we found from the Imperial College London found that turbines can actually lose over 1% of their outputs per year.
Right, OK, so let's come back to this referendum then. Where does that idea come in and how would that work?
Yeah, that's where things start to get a little bit tricky because the only legislation that covers referendums on the island is the Referendum Act 1979. It's actually never been used, and a report by the Clerk of Tynwald last year even called it outdated. It doesn't actually set out how the results of a referendum should be acted on. And it says a vote can only happen if Tynwald agrees to it, and even then any change would still need to go through the usual legislative process.
So that begs the question then, has there been any movement politically to update the law?
Well, there has. Just last year, Chris Thomas, the MHK for Douglas Central, he was given leave to introduce a bill to reform how referendums are actually handled. So reform is on the table, but it's still early days.
Christian Jones, thank you. Moving on, Treasury Minister Alex Allinson says there's a need to look at the way patients from the Isle of Man are transferred to the UK for medical treatment. He believes some of those being sent for follow-up appointments could be seen on Ireland instead. With work ongoing to ensure Manx Care operates within its budget this financial year, Minister Allinson told Phil Gaughan it's an area that's being looked at.
I think we are making difficult decisions on a daily basis. Healthcare, as the biggest part of government expenditure now, it's even larger than benefits, has had to look at how they prioritise various services and be really realistic that some of the things that we wanted to bring in this year we'll possibly have to defer for next year or the year after. And also we need to have a real look at the way, or particularly we transfer people to the UK for treatments.
That is one of those bizarre things that I think many people would struggle to understand. I mean, why is it that follow-up appointments, why can those not be carried out in the Isle of Man?
They can, but what we need to do is look at reforming some of the processes in healthcare, because this isn't necessarily Manx Care's fault. This is something that they've inherited from the previous department structure. The reality is when people go to see a consultant at Nobles and they're judged to need referral to a specialist in the UK for whatever reason, there's no obvious flagging that's been done. The person then gets to the UK, and I've heard constituents say, well, I went there and they couldn't access my scans. They did another one while I was there, and then they asked me to come back for the scan results, and then they've carried on seeing me for years, and they're very happy to see me. And then I told them about a rash I had, so they referred me to one of their dermatologists while I was over there. It was great service. But of course, all of that is being billed to Manx Care.
And that could be being done, potentially. Some of that, at least, could be done on the island.
Yeah, and so the whole idea was to have proper commissioning so that people were only sent across when they had to go across.
Treasury Minister Alex Allinson talking to Phil Gaughan. A patient has accused Manx Care of not being honest with regards to the impact of disruption to the island's breast clinic services. It, as a locum breast radiologist, began an unplanned short-term absence on March 31st, which is expected to last 4 weeks. Manx Care stated that every individual who's affected by this disruption has been contacted and notified, but this patient who was asked to remain anonymous, told Manx Radio she's been given no clarity over the future of her treatment.
We've been told there's nobody over next week for it and that the next clinic could be in about 2 to 3 weeks. But with the vast number of ladies that are actually waiting, we might not get seen until after that, which will take me coming into about my 7th, 8th week. I raised the question about being sent to the UK for checkups, and Manx carers refused that and said they wouldn't be able to do it because of the vast amount of ladies that are waiting on the list. I don't think that's acceptable either. I think they could send a couple of women over a day to try and clear the backlog. I've currently lost about 1.5 stone in weight in 3 weeks because I can't eat, I feel sick, I'm snapping at people that I shouldn't be snapping at. I raised the question about going private, and for me to go to the Wirral at Spire Hospital in Manchester, I'm looking at over £2,000 to have a consultation, an ultrasound, and if needed, a biopsy. That's a lot of money to spend on a basic need that I should be getting.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. On Wednesday evening, Manx Care released a statement saying that all affected patients have been contacted and seen to.
Nope, I haven't been contacted. The only contact I've had from Manx Care is when the doctor cancelled their appointments. That's the only contact I've had from Manx Care. It's the unknown that is killing me. I don't know from 1 minute to the next. We shouldn't be made to wait 5 to 6 weeks to find out if we have or haven't. And Manx Care are not being honest. They're telling us that we've all been contacted. No, we haven't. Nobody's contacted me to tell me that we've got somebody on island. Nobody's contacted me to say, we're going to have somebody here, we'll have your appointment done on this date. I'd happily go away to be checked. Sitting here like this is messing with people's lives. It's messing with the families. It's the unknown. It can't carry on like this. It needs sorting.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Staying on a similar kind of theme, the Manx Rally got underway this morning, and among those competing is an all-female crew raising money and awareness for Manx Breast Cancer Support Group. Driver Louise Thomas of the Mini Girls Rally team says it's something that's close to her heart.
Going to see what we can do, get out on the roads in my classic Mini and have some fun and see if we can raise awareness and funds for a fantastic charity.
And why is it something that's so close to your heart?
I suffered with breast cancer 4 years ago. Luckily, my breast cancer was caught really early and was treated very, very quickly. So 4 years on, I'm still here and competing on the Isle of Man. But also I lost my mother 18 years ago to breast cancer, which had a huge effect on me. Changed my life completely. She was my mum and my best friend as well. So I've always had a passion for supporting breast cancer charities, and that led me into working with Marie Curie and working as a palliative care nurse on the Isle of Mull. So, I've got a real strong passion in supporting the charities, and you've got a fantastic charity over here. So it's going to be great fun competing in the Mini and competing for a good cause.
You are part of an all-female team. How unusual is that in the rally scene?
It is unusual, not as unusual as it used to be, but more and more female competitors are getting involved. But female co-drivers, there's quite a few of them because they're really good at what they do. They're very good at multitasking. The driver just has to drive and the co-driver does everything else. Make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be on time, out on the stages, gives me all my directions where I'm going.
How much money are you hoping to be able to raise for Manx Breast Cancer Support Group, and how can people help if they would like to?
I've started a Just Giving page. We have a Facebook page, Mini Girls Rally Team, which the link is on there for them. So anything anyone can give would be fantastic.
And we'll be getting an update on the Manx Rally in about 10 minutes' time from Rob Pritchard. A new system for categorising indecent images of children could speed up prosecutions of child sex offenders in the island and lessen the impact the work has on police officers. Currently, material has to be viewed and graded manually. But the Child Abuse Image Database, which is already in place in England and Wales, will mean images that have already appeared in previous cases don't need to be sorted again. Detective Superintendent Steve Maddox is in charge of investigations and safeguarding in the Isle of Man Constabulary and has been speaking to Sean Cowper.
We have a digital evidence unit who receive all evidence in relation to an investigation. There's a computer system called CADE, which is the Child Abuse Image Database. That is a store of about 182 million photographs and images that UK law enforcement use. Lots of the images that circulate by the people that look at that kind of thing is recirculated quite a lot. So there's a big database of images that people don't have to actually look at because they've already been captured and graded.
And there will be some people who hear things like computer databases and AI and worry about technical issues. How sound is this system?
It's really sound. It's approved by UK courts. Also, it's been accepted by the Manx courts in the change in the legislation. So it's absolutely sound. It's something that's been used for a number of years and has been very successful in tackling this type of criminality.
At the moment, officers have to look at the images. This is going to have this more digital element. How big a difference in terms of time, but also the impact on officers is that going to have?
Yeah, I mean, it will obviously assist the administration of justice, which is really important and will actually hopefully advance things through the courts much quicker than we previously have experienced. But the big thing with this, and this to me is probably one of the most important things, is that we have officers within the digital evidence unit who have to look at these images, and they're very, very unpleasant. They're deplorable and horrible things to have to look at. So the exposure that they're having to view those kind of things is drastically reduced now we've got this system in place.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, everything in and out of Ronaldsway is showing on time. The ferries are looking good as well. Just a reminder, there's quite a few road closures around the island today for the Manx Rally, so just be aware, if you can, of where those road closures are in place.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with Quayside.
A candidate standing in the Douglas South election says he'd like to see the weekly bin collections reinstated if elected to the board. Carol Verelst, who's from South Africa, claims the council should be run like a utility to prevent overspending on vanity projects.
The Douglas Council needs to be run more like a utility than like an ideological body. And the voters, the residents, need to get the services they pay for. And that needs to start with the basic essential services. And they don't need money wasting. That's another big thing in my book is the amount of money that's being wasted at council. Silly things like a glass display box being purchased for £13,000 when there was a perfectly good one there, which apparently cost them £300 before. I know that's a small item, but you look at it, it's on every single thing. We need to focus on services that people pay for through their rates and their rents and improve those. Primarily, the bin collection needs to be brought back to a weekly standard. A number of other things. So, for example, I really believe that Douglas shouldn't have so many boarded up buildings. Now, that's going to require some collaboration with Tynwald. I want it to be run as more like a utility and more as a service and less as a political organisation. I do believe that there are some serious issues in Douglas that need to be addressed, like wasteful spending, and moreover is issues like the dilapidation of properties. I think that's a real problem for Douglas, and I think it is because we are not enforcing regulations properly.
Carol Verelst and the other candidates in Douglas South are Stephen Crullen, David Cretney and William Smedley. Now, staying with the local elections, a candidate standing for re-election in Patrick believes the local authority is now running smoothly after a series of resignations in 2023. Gordon Clegg, the current chair of the commissioners, says he'd like to see the rates kept low, but has sorting out the pavements and hedge trimming at the top of his manifesto.
I'm passionate about village life. I want to see the local authorities maintained. I'd be totally against an all-island authority because I feel the likes of these small villages, not just Glenmay and Patrick, be neglected. If we had an all-island authority, all monies would be spent on the larger towns and we'd get what was left over. So that's the main reason, is to keep these authorities going and keep looking after our own areas. Important thing is I'm there to listen. If somebody's got a problem, I can't promise to solve all problems, nobody can, but I am there to listen. I can take them back to meetings and I will try my best to get these things done. Pavements and hedge trimming is a big thing on my agenda, and drainage. I would like to see things a lot tidier. I'd like to see things done and keep it moving, and unless we keep pushing and get these things done, they're not done. I mean, there's lots of other things happening around about, but they were just some of the small things I pick up on. I think things have ran very smoothly since then. It's very awkward. We had 4 members instead of the 5. We didn't see the point in trying to look for a 5th member at the time because it was so close to a general election. And you've got to bear in mind, elections aren't cheap. So to go and look for a 5th member, it was going to be costly. We had 2 new members, myself and Leo. Roger Banks-Jones, who was there with the experience, and Henry Bryson had been on for a while. Just the mix, it just keeps things moving, and I think things have run a lot smoother, and we just keep pushing along and do what we can.
Gordon Clegg, and the other runners in Patrick are John Anderson, Henry Brightson, Paul Craker, Leo Cousins and Simon Mellor.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Cab fares won't be going up this year following a review by the body responsible for setting rates. The Road Transport Licensing Committee has been consulting with the taxi trade on meter tariffs for the year ahead. Sean Cowper reports.
The committee has been seeking feedback from those in the industry, with 31 operators responding. More than 3/4 of those who made submissions said they were in favour of no increase to the daytime Tariff 1 rate or the nighttime Tariff 2 charge. Just 3% supported an increase of 5% or more to Tariff 1, while 7% backed the same rise for Tariff 2. One respondent told the committee they'd like to see a 3rd tariff established specifically for Christmas Day to be charged at double the Tariff 1 rate. One suggested increasing the extras charged for additional passengers, and 2 called for increasing the charge for waiting times. With tariffs having gone up last year, the RTLC confirmed it will be leaving fares unchanged for 2025. Last year also saw the start time for Tariff 2 brought forward from midnight to 11 p.m. No respondents suggested it should be moved back to midnight this year.
Meanwhile, the Secretary of the Isle of Man Unite Taxi Branch says members are welcoming the decision not to increase taxi fares. As we heard this week, the Road Transport Licensing Committee announced the results of a review into setting tariffs, and it follows feedback from those in the industry, with 31 operators responding. Mike Birchall says 90% of the union's own members voted against any increase, while 10% wanted to see a rise of between 1% and 5%.
Everybody knows living costs have gone up and our running costs have gone up dramatically as well. Fuel has stayed the same, which is a big one for us. There's been no increase in fuel really in the last 12 months. It sort of goes up and down, fluctuates by a few pence, but it's roughly the same as it was. Insurance for some drivers has actually gone up by 30%. There are less insurance companies wanting to insure taxis or willing to insure taxis, and it's getting harder to find policies. So we have had increases, and maintenance costs have gone up as well. But we did want at this time to pass our costs, our extra costs, onto the general public. We want to encourage the general public to carry on using taxis, and we decided that we would prefer to take the hit ourselves rather than pass it on.
Last year, they did introduce the increase. Did you find that people were more inclined to take maybe public transport as opposed to a taxi?
I think last year everybody understood why we needed an increase. It had been, I think, 3 years since we had an increase. So we'd sort of cushioned the extra costs over a 3-year period, and we'd had no increase at all. So I think the general public generally understood that. There was a little bit of discussion last year why Tariff 2 was brought forward to 11 o'clock from midnight. What I have to say is, it's in certain parts of the UK. I know we're not part of the UK and we have our own systems, but trades like ours we draw parallels with the UK. Certain parts of the UK, Tariff 2 cuts in at 10 o'clock at night and runs till 8 o'clock in the morning. We felt that it was reasonable to implement that at 11 o'clock at night, and I think on the whole it's been accepted. And certainly I questioned our drivers when I did this survey, and nobody has felt any negative effects of the Tariff 2 being brought forward. And there's been no more negative comments about that over the last sort of 4 or 5 months.
You're listening to Manx Radio. This is Update Time now for sport with Rob Pritchard. Faster my.
Faster my, Dave. Well, we'll start with motorsport, and day one of the 2025 Manx Rally has been taking place throughout this morning and this afternoon. After a morning shakedown session, the crews have taken on the opening stages as we head into the evening runs, the event itself running all the way through to Saturday evening. So we do have the timings as they stand right up until Special Stage 5. The event is ongoing, as I say, but we do have some confirmed numbers in front of us just at the moment. moment. So as of the end of Special Stage 5, it was Gary Jennings and Rory Kennedy in their Ford Fiesta leading the way with a total time of 18 minutes 44.4 seconds. And then 8.9 seconds behind them, also in Ford Fiesta Rally 2 this one, Sam Toozle and Max Freeman, and making up the top three, the number one outfit of Neil Roskell and Rob Fagg as well, also in a Ford Fiesta Rally 2. Incidentally, all of the top four machines so far in the Manx Rally 2025 are running as Ford Fiestas or Ford Fiesta Rally 2. In fifth at the moment is one that plenty are keeping an eye on, and that is Jason Pritchard and Phil Clark. Pritchard running a Toyota GR Yaris this year, so a new car, and of course he's going for what would be an unprecedented sixth Manx Rally title as well. So just a reminder as well that the event is taking place all the way through to Saturday evening. Details of road closures throughout the next couple of days for the event are available on the Manx Autosport website. Elsewhere, Cup competition continues across Isle of Man football this weekend with the first rounds of the Manx Quality Sheds Hospital Cup and Ascot Hotel Junior Cup. Following the preliminary stages of both tournaments last week, 16 teams return to the field, each vying for progress into the final 8. The Hospital Cup takes centre stage tomorrow. One of those ties sees two champions collide as Division 2 winners Braddon host new Canada Life Men's Premier League holders Peel. Elsewhere, there's a Southern derby as Castletown welcome Colby, and a Northern duel too with Michael United entertaining Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys as well.